Unveiling the dark truth behind billionaire manifestation, what they never told you. In the dim light of an empty penthouse, whispers of an unspeakable truth hung like heavy fog. The walls, adorned with priceless art, seemed to pulse as if they held dark secrets. What if I told you that billionaire manifestation was more than just dreams? That behind the glitz and glamour lay a chilling reality. The kind of reality that keeps you up at night, your heart racing, your mind spiraling into a whirlpool of questions. Those who have touched the stars often carry burdens too heavy to bear, and tonight, the truth would claw its way into the light. Have you ever noticed the glimmer in a billionaire's eye during a seminar? It's not just confidence, it's desperation. Kyle Davidson, the kingpin of manifesting riches, stood one night, overlooking the crowded streets of Manhattan. His eyes darted like a spotlight, searching for a yet undiscovered vulnerability. He wasn't just selling hope, he was trading in shadows. In the back, a woman with trembling hands clutched her notepad, trying desperately to remember every word as if it could unlock a vault of untold riches. But what she didn't know? Manifestation had a sinister price. As the attendees eagerly took notes, a chill settled over the room. Did they hear that strange sound? It was a faint tapping, barely perceptible, like the hurried heartbeats of the audience. The lights flickered, and a collective gasp escaped the crowd. A shadow loomed just beyond the glass doors. Was it just a trick of the light? Or was it something or someone looking to reclaim what was taken? The excitement turned to unease, and the air thickened with unspoken fears, leaving the room buzzing with a thrumming tension. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But back to the penthouse. The tension reached a breaking point when Kyle took a deep breath, and a knowing smile crept onto his face. Was he prepared to unveil the ultimate secret? A glimmer of madness danced in his eyes. He raised a hand, stilling the crowd as he muttered, "Some things are better left unsaid." It felt like the room itself held its breath, teetering on the edge of revelation. The crowd leaned in, filled with nervous anticipation. What was he hiding? Whispers started to travel through the throng, and sudden silence blanketed the room like a heavy velvet curtain. Just then, the door swung open, a rush of cold air sweeping through, and every eye turned. Standing there, cloaked in shadows, was an uninvited guest, their presence igniting a firestorm of murmurs. Who were they? And why had they come? The night was far from over, and as secrets began to unravel, one question loomed larger than the rest: what happens when the dream of wealth turns into a nightmare of truth? The figure in the doorway stepped into the dim light, revealing a woman shrouded in mystery. Her dark hair framed a face that was both beautiful and unsettling. A flicker of recognition flashed through Kyle's eyes, followed by a shadow of fear. The room erupted into a flurry of hushed whispers, each attendee trying to piece together the stranger's identity. "Who the hell is that?" someone murmured from the back, breaking the tension with an edge of anxiety in their voice. "Emma." Kyle's voice trembled, barely a whisper, yet it echoed through the stillness. The woman's name hung in the air like an uninvited ghost, stirring memories long buried. Emma took a step forward, her eyes fixed on Kyle with an intensity that seemed to pierce right through him. "You thought you could escape, Kyle. You thought you could manifest a future without consequences." With each word, the weight of her presence thickened. The crowd had turned into a living entity, hearts synchronized in horror and curiosity. This was not the revelation they had anticipated. This was personal, raw, and dangerous. Kyle's mask of control slipped. This isn't the place for this," he stammered, eyes darting nervously between Emma and the crowd. "We're here to learn, to elevate ourselves." "But at what cost?" Emma shot back, her voice gaining strength, taking ownership of the collective fear that had cocooned the room. You peddle dreams, Kyle, but you prey on desperation. You sold your soul to the very entities you warned us about. The air shifted, becoming electric. A palpable tension crackled as the audience leaned in, straining to grasp the escalating drama. I'm not here to ruin your party, Emma continued, her tone abruptly shifting to one of deep sincerity, but to expose the dangers of your fabrication. You must listen. There are those who paid the price for your promises, those who lost more than money, they lost their very essence. Gasps and murmurs scattered across the room, like the sound of leaves rustling in a storm. They had come for secrets to riches, not revelations of ruin. Just then, a young man in the front row lost control of his emotions, yelling, "Prove it. If you have proof, share it now." Emma turned her fiery gaze toward him, taking a deep breath. "I can show you. The people you see on stage, endorsing his method, they are all trapped, linked to a darkness that feeds on their ambition. Kyle doesn't just share secrets, he chains you to a cycle you can't escape." Kyle's knuckles whitened as he clenched his fists. "Enough," he thundered, desperation seeping through his bravado. "Leave now, Emma. You're endangering everything." But Emma didn't budge. Her boldness had ignited a spark in the attendees, many now exchanging curious glances, their trust in Kyle wavering. The night hung heavy with turmoil, shifting from an atmosphere of aspiration to one of doubt, distrust clouding their minds. The walls, once a bastion of opulence, now felt oppressive, as if closing in on the truth that was desperate to emerge. "What do you think he is hiding?" a woman whispered, fear threading through her voice, her hand gripping her pencil so tightly her knuckles turned white. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "What would you do for wealth? For power? If you had to pay in blood, would you?" That question hung there, heavy and thick, freezing the crowd in place, hearts pounding in unison. With every second, anticipation swelled. They were on the edge of something monumental, a truth unraveling like a tightly wound coil, and just then, the lights blinked out entirely, plunging the room into pitch darkness, shattering the tension into chaos. Silence fell, but every heart seemed to be screaming, "What now?" When the lights returned, Kyle stood alone at the front, but Emma had vanished. Where was she? What had happened? Panic fluttered in the air, scattering the audience into frenzied whispers and frantic glances. In that moment, the realization hit: the night was just beginning, and the chilling depths of the truth were waiting to be unearthed. But who would survive when the facade of wealth began to crumble? And what secrets would be revealed when the lights went out again? The crowd shifted uneasily, murmurs rising like a tide of uncertainty. Kyle's heart raced, his thoughts spiraling. Where had Emma gone? Was she hiding in the shadows, watching? He scanned the room, the walls pulsing with energy, dread thick in the air. "Find her!" he barked, though his voice trembled. He saw heads nodding in nervous agreement, but deep down, he knew this was no longer about finding Emma. It was about controlling the chaos that threatened to engulf him. An older woman in the back, eyes wide, whispered, "What if she is right? What if we're all in danger?" Kyle wheeled around, searching for her face amid the crowd. Clenching his jaw, he forcefully projected confidence. "Listen, everyone. Emma is just trying to scare you. This is all a part of her game to undermine me." But his words fell flat, barely resonating against the unease pulled in the room. The lights flickered again briefly, casting eerie shadows. A collective gasp rippled through. The attendees seemed glued to their spots, suspended between realization and denial. "Do you really believe that?" another voice shouted from the crowd. "Do you think we've been protected?" Kyle's stomach twisted. They were beginning to see beneath the veneer he had crafted, and he could feel the weight of their gazes pressing down on him. Panic was creeping in like an unwelcome fog. He turned sharply, facing the stage. "Show of hands, people. Who here has gained what Kyle promised?" A young woman in a chic suit stood up, her expression fierce. Others glanced around hesitantly before slowly raising their hands, a mix of hope and uncertainty in their eyes. "Is it worth the cost?" she asked, her voice now steady and piercing. Here we are, somehow thinking we could leap into wealth and power, and Emma says it's attached to something darker. Kyle's heart sank. If he hadn't stopped Emma, this moment wouldn't be happening. The laughter, the prosperity, it was a fragile illusion, one he had taken every measure to protect. The crowd was shifting, questioning, and he felt the ground beneath him crumble. Shut it down. This isn't a debate. He barked, a hint of desperation cracking his voice. You came here for guidance, for success, not doom and gloom. But the crowd wasn't listening. They were tasting the resentment, hungry for truth they feared might be out of reach. It was happening, the room was fracturing and he was losing them. Just then, someone shouted from the far side, "Where did Emma go? What if she knows something we don't?" Kyle clenched his fists tighter, feeling the tingle of anger and fear tightening in his chest. "I said, enough." His voice rang out, echoing off the walls as he fought to regain control, but the word felt weak, hollow. Suddenly, a loud crash startled everyone. A door at the back of the room swung wide open, revealing a narrow corridor shrouded in darkness. Emma emerged once more, this time her expression fierce, eyes alight with a manic energy that sent shivers down Kyle's spine. "Are you ready to understand the price of your dreams?" she called out, her voice slicing through the tension. "This time, there are no shadows to hide in. Time is up, Kyle. You can run, but you can't escape the truth forever." With that, she stepped into the dim light, brandishing a small metallic device. Its surface shimmered ominously, as if holding secrets untold. The room fell silent, the chilling weight of her words capturing everyone's breath. They were teetering on the brink, standing on the precipice of a truth they were terrified to confront. What had Emma found? What lay within that metal device? As Kyle swallowed hard, the reality dawned on him. The night held a turning point, and he had only begun to face the consequences of his empire. But as the crowd watched with bated breath, would they uncover the dark reality, or would fear drive them back into the shadows forever? The metallic device gleamed like a star fallen from the heavens, promising and sinister all at once. Kyle's heart thudded like a war drum in his chest as he locked eyes with Emma. Her defiance radiated from her, and the power shift was palpable. "What is that?" he shouted, forcing authority into his voice, but the fear that trembled inside him betrayed him. "An insurance policy," she replied, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Or perhaps it's a grenade waiting for the right moment to explode." A shiver coursed through the crowd, faces paling under the harsh flickering lights. The silence that followed was heavy, as if every soul present was collectively holding their breath. "Emma, put that down," Kyle demanded, taking a cautious step forward. "You don't know what you're playing with. And you don't know what you've unleashed." She shot back, raising the device high above her head. "This is the culmination of everything you've built. You wanted power. Here are the strings that pull it all. Success has a price, and it's time everyone knew." A murmur surged through the audience, rising and falling like waves crashing against a rocky shore. Whispers of "What does she mean? And do we trust her?" dug into Kyle's mind, each word a dagger aimed at his carefully crafted facade. Emma's eyes flashed, and in that moment, Kyle felt the ground shift under him, fragile as glass. He fought against it, searching for any thread of control he could grasp. "You don't know what you're talking about. Nothing is black and white. This is about ambition, about greed." She interrupted, her voice raising as the crowd began to stir. "Look around. Every promise you made came with shackles. I've seen the truth, Kyle. Your empire is built on darkness you've ignored." With that, she ripped open a latch on the side of the device, and a series of chilling red lights began to blink ominously. Panic erupted like a firework going off in the night sky. Eyes wide, a few attendees stumbled backward, desperate to escape. "What are you doing?" Kyle shouted, adrenaline surging through him as he stepped into the line of sight once more. "I'm showing them the real cost," she declared, her voice rising above the chaos. "This device projects the choices that have been swept under the rug. Are you ready to see how deep it goes?" As if in response, small screens blinked to life along the edges of the room, images flashing on each one, faces, names, and unfamiliar documents scrolling like the credits of a tragic movie. Gasps turned into exclamations of horror. No way. Is that real? This can't be happening. Kyle's throat tightened. He recognized some of those names. Associates, friends, people who had trusted him now linked to corruption and betrayal. The truth clawed at him, and he fought to suppress the rising tide of guilt. Look at what you've done, Kyle. Emma's voice sliced through him, cutting deeper than any knife. You wanted power, and look how it's consumed you. Before he could respond, the lights flickered once more, plunging the room into darkness for a moment that felt eternal. Then came the crackling sound of static, followed by a frantic scream from the corner of the room. A figure darted past him, panic-stricken, desperate to escape the unfolding nightmare. Kyle's instincts kicked in, but he hesitated. Who was it? More chaos erupted as bodies collided, screaming rose in pitch, and adrenaline filled the air like smoke. In that flash of confusion, Kyle realized the stakes were higher than he had imagined. Emma had unleashed more than just the truth, she had ignited a powder keg. Would the crowd rally behind him, or was he destined to be swallowed whole by the very shadows he had tried to control? As the lights stuttered and hums of disarray echoed around him, Kyle took a deep breath, feeling the walls of his world tilt precariously. Each heartbeat thundered like a ticking clock, edging him closer to an irrevocable decision. What would happen next? Would secrets be revealed or buried deeper than before, lost in a storm of desperation? As reality twisted and turned, one question loomed above all else: who would emerge from the shadows in the end? The tension hung thick in the air, a snare tightening around Kyle's heart as the chaos unfurled. The flickering lights cast long, shuddering shadows that danced ominously across wide eyes and pale faces. His mind raced. He had to think. Everyone, stay calm. Kyle shouted, his voice cracking as he fought against the rising tide of fear. But the crowd surged like a tide, unrelenting, a mass of confusion and panic. The sound of shuffling feet, whispered curses, and the clattering of overturned chairs filled the room. Someone tripped, and a cascade of bodies began to tumble as chaos reignited. Emma held her ground, the device gleaming like a dark sun in her hands, illuminating the faces of those close to her with a harrowing light. Emma! Stop this! He yelled, pushing through the throng, but every step brought fresh echoes of desperation, every sigh like a dagger through his resolve. I'm giving them a chance to see. She shouted back, more fervently now, urgency driven by something deeper than just anger. Your power is built on lies, Kyle. They deserve to know how you truly operate. As she spoke, another screen buzzed to life, revealing more names, horrifying connections that spiraled into a web of deceit. Kyle's face flushed. He felt exposed, raw. Faces he had turned his back on, whispers of betrayal that had always lurked in the shadows, now exploded across the screens like fireworks of ruin. He glimpsed Sarah, his high school friend, now chronicled as a financial backer to his highest competitors. A touch of resentment ignited his chest, cold but sharp. They had all made choices, right? But then it came crashing back, the moments he turned a blind eye, conversations he had buried, codes he had broken. Was this the reckoning he had long feared? Shut it down, Emma. You have no idea where this leads. Kyle pleaded, desperation weaving through his words. But Emma, fiercely unyielding, was already too far gone. I know exactly where it leads. To you. She declared, voice fierce and relentless. This is your reckoning, Kyle. Those dark corners. They're about to be exposed. And I'm holding the light. With a sudden blare, alarms blared from hidden speakers, cacophonous and shrill, drowning out the frantic, trembling cries around him. The night was no longer a simple corporate event, it became a living nightmare, each sound like a shattering glass echoing the fragility of their world. Panic wrapped itself tighter around Kyle's chest as he fought to hold onto the thread of control. Listen! He called out again, hands raised with no intention of surrender. We can fix this. I can fix this. We can come together and together. Emma scoffed, the light from the device dancing in her fierce gaze. You mean more smoke and mirrors? You think they'll ever trust you again? In that moment, Kyle felt a deafening crash inside him. Part of him knew she was right. The screens continued to feed images, and with each name that scrolled, each face that lit up the room, a little piece of his carefully built empire crumbled away. Amid the chaos, the frantic energy spiraled into violence. Someone shouted that they saw security coming, and the crowd pressed toward the exits. Bodies collided, shoulders slammed, nails dug into skin, all humans tangled in fear and desperation. As Kyle pushed through the throng, desperately trying to reach Emma, he saw the flicker of fear in her eyes transforming into icy determination. The balance had shifted, and he was no longer the puppet master. Then, with a distant rumble echoing through the building, the lights flickered violently before plunging into darkness, leaving Kyle standing in a deafening void. The room held its breath, silence stretching like a taut wire ready to snap. Somewhere in that dark, a wail broke free, a cry soaked with despair, and in that heartbeat of darkness, Kyle realized the truth. He wasn't just fighting for control. He was fighting for his very soul. Somewhere amid the mayhem, the real question lay waiting. What would he have to sacrifice to reclaim both, and when the light returned, would it truly illuminate the path to redemption or plunge him deeper into shadows he could not escape? The world exploded back into existence with a blinding flash. Kyle squinted against the harsh glare. People stumbled, blinking like newborns in the light, their faces drawn and wide-eyed. The alarms shrieked like banshees, a cacophony of terror and confusion that ricocheted off the walls. Emma stood at the center, the ominous device still blazing in her hands. The weight of her revelation lingered over the crowd, thick as smoke. Clarity settled in, transforming her resolve into something sharper, lethal. Stop. No more secrets. She cried out, her voice cutting through the chaos. It's time you all understood who Kyle really is. The crowd, now half awake and half shell-shocked, turned their attention back to him. He was the focus of all their anger, fear, distrust. Each gaze felt like a dagger. Emma, this isn't the way, he said, his voice strained, battling to overpower the alarms. You're only escalating this. There's still time to fix this. But in his heart, doubt coiled. Fixing it might mean bringing back a truth better left buried. Fix what? The lies? The manipulation? She shot back. You think they'll just sit back and let you pull the strings again? No. This is your reckoning. He fought against the tide of her certainty, clawing for the remnants of his faded power. I've built this. It's all I have left. Built what? She spat. A house of cards. The moment they find out just how rotten it is, it'll come crashing down. You're playing with fire, Kyle. The ground jolted beneath him, another rumble, this one louder. It felt as if the building itself was reacting to the storm brewing inside. A flicker of worry passed over the audience, they could sense something beyond chaos creeping in. Suddenly, the screens flickered again, this time showing not just names but images of desperation, despair, people affected by Kyle's choices. They filled the room with stories that clawed at the heart. What was once an empire of prestige transformed into a snare of tragedies. Memories of every deal made at the expense of another flashed in his mind, each reminding him not just of their faces but their lives, those he had crushed under the weight of success. Look! Emma urged, lifting her device higher, allowing the light to shine brighter. These are the real consequences of your choices. This is what your empire stands on. The collective gasp from the crowd was loud enough to hush the alarms. They all realized, all at once, the sickening truth. They had put their faith in a man who may have lost his humanity. Stop this, please, Kyle's voice trembled, echoing the vulnerability he tried to mask beneath a facade of control. But it was too late. The truth was out, and with it, the fabric of his carefully woven world started to unravel. The crowd began to murmur. Whispers turned to shouts, fingers started to point, and a chorus of betrayal erupted. He was losing them, losing everything he had worked for. In the tumult, He caught Sarah's gaze again, her look of anger mixed with a deep sorrow that twisted at his insides, anchoring him. She was once a friend, now an enemy forged by his countless decisions. The lights blinked once more, and then darkness again. A powerful wave swept through the crowd. In that enveloping dark, Kyle felt the ground shift beneath him, threatening to swallow him whole. He had to act. But what could he say? Then, a whisper snuck through the echoes of chaos, whether it was his own thoughts or someone else's he couldn't tell. You'll never escape your past. A surge of panic twisted his gut as he stood there, paralyzed by dread. What choice did he have? Would redemption beckon him with open arms, or would it slither away into the depths of his failures? The weight of their collective gaze felt like lead, but it was another sound that pierced through the soft crack of a door creaking open in the back of the room. What waited beyond that door screamed of untold possibilities and dangers. With the darkness closing in once more, the question loomed like a storm cloud: would he muster the courage to step into the light or remain shackled in the shadows of his making? The air hung thick with tension, a suffocating blanket cloaking the room. Kyle felt as if 1,000 eyes bored into him, unearthing his deepest fears. The door creaked wider, and shadows spilled into the light, beckoning him forward. He hesitated, rooted in place, the firearm of desperation clouding his mind. Every heartbeat thundered in his ears, the din of emotion drowning reason. What lay beyond that threshold? Was it just more darkness waiting to consume him, or a path to the judgment he could no longer escape? A voice echoed from the back, cutting through the chaos. What is happening, Kyle? Answer us. It was Sarah, her words tinged with simmering fury. He couldn't bear to look at her now. It was easier to focus on the door. There was something in that darkness, a flicker of hope. A chance to reclaim his narrative if he could summon the resolve to step forward. Choices, he muttered to himself, barely audible over the sea of angry voices. I made choices. There was weight in those words, a heavy blanket of consequences that suffocated him whenever he thought of them. Enough with the theatrics. Emma shouted, waving her device like a banner of truth. You're right, Kyle. You did make choices. And now, it's time to face them. He felt it then, a swell of shame rising in his throat. The room began to close in, voices mingling into a tortured symphony of accusation. Each insult served as a reminder of all he had lost, all he had sacrificed. Then, the unexpected happened. A voice sliced through the rumbling discontent, steady and unwavering. Kyle. It was his father. The man whose reputation had once loomed larger than life now stood frail in the shadows, his face hardened by disappointment. Don't let them drown you. Your past doesn't define your future. The words ignited a flicker of defiance within Kyle. His father was right. But would stepping forward mean redemption, or simply another betrayal? He took a deep breath, feeling the grumbling earth beneath his feet, a reminder of everything he was, as well as everything he wished to become. With a sudden rush of adrenaline, he strode toward the door. The moment his fingers grazed the cold metal handle, the alarms blared even louder. The crowd gasped, a single collective breath drawn as if anticipating his next move. But the darkness behind the door wasn't just isolation. It held secrets, perhaps more dangerous than the ones already laid bare. Behind that door, he could finally confront the demons he had running from for too long. He swung the door open, the blinding brightness of the unknown flooding in. Faces peered in, jaws clenched tight, expectant for his decision. Just outside the threshold, shadows danced, promises of truth intertwined with promises of pain. Are you ready? Emma's voice rang out, cutting through the echoes of his own thoughts. Ready for what? He replied, uncertainty draping over him like a heavy cloak. Ready to take responsibility. She shouted. It was both accusation and a lifeline. Responsibility. Did it mean owning his failures? Or confronting them head-on? Silence hung in the air, so thick it could be stabbed with a knife. The tension felt electric, a spark waiting to ignite a full-blown firestorm. He stepped inside, feeling the fury of his past rise up around him. Whatever awaits, I'll face it. But would it be enough? Would anyone forgive him? With every heartbeat, he crossed that threshold into the unknown, leaving the cacophony of doubt and judgment behind. As he did, a distant rumbling echoed once more deeper than before. The building itself trembled, as if it understood something vital was shifting. The walls seemed to shudder, and all at once, an unsettling realization sank in. What if this newfound journey posed a greater peril than he could fathom? Gripped by fear and hope intertwined, Kyle plunged into darkness, desperate to uncover what lay ahead. Would this be the path to redemption he craved, or the ultimate point of no return? Only time would tell. And all the while, the haunting voice echoed in his mind, "You'll never escape your past." The moment Kyle stepped through the threshold, a heavy stillness wrapped around him, swallowing the noise from the crowd outside. The brightness momentarily blinded him, but it quickly faded into sharp shapes, walls lined with photographs, whispers of his past hanging like shadows. Each picture was a reminder, the laughter of friends, the warmth of family, moments that felt long lost. And yet, with every step deeper into the room, discomfort nestled in his gut. The joy in those images was tainted, stained by failures that echoed in his ears louder than the ones outside. In the middle of the room, a table stood, draped with black fabric. On it rested an old notebook, its pages yellowed and curling at the edges. He could feel a magnetic pull toward it. Tentatively, he reached for the book, a wave of dread washing over him. As he flipped it open, a chill swept through him. Each page recounted elaborate details of choices he had made, decisions that spiraled into consequences he couldn't deny. It was like reading his life's sentence. He paused at a particular entry, one filled with scribbled anguish and regret. "I was wrong to trust them." The sentence felt like a knife twisting in his heart. But who was he referring to? Who had betrayed him? Suddenly, the room flickered, shadows shifting malevolently. Something felt wrong. No, not just wrong, threatening. Kyle's breath quickened as he slammed the notebook closed, but the shadows didn't retreat. They wound tighter around him, like serpents ready to strike, each whisper a pointed reminder of his failures. "Who are you?" he shouted, voice quivering slightly. From the corner emerged a figure, a silhouette barely discernible in the dim light. "You don't remember me?" The voice was soft yet brimming with contempt. It was a voice Kyle recognized. His heart raced with a mix of recognition and fear. "Melissa?" The word barely escaped his lips, thick with disbelief. Memories of summer nights and laughter flooded back, tainted by betrayal. They were once inseparable, friends united against the world. But bitterness had become their bond when she turned against him, exploiting his weakness and revealing secrets he held sacred. She stepped into the light, and the sudden clarity was jarring. Her eyes held a fierce intensity, one that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. "You think you can just walk away from it all, Kyle? You think facing the past will erase the truth?" "Truth?" he retorted, anger igniting within him. "Is that what you call it? Your version of it? You twisted everything I stood for." The air crackled with tension, each word slicing deeper than the last. Kyle's hands trembled as he felt the shadows closing in, threatening to suffocate him. Memories flooded back, images not just of Melissa but of others who had hurt him. Each face, now an accusation. Each laugh, a reminder of betrayal. "You can't silence the past," she hissed, and with that, the shadows surged toward him. Kyle stumbled back, colliding with the wall, gasping as the darkness enveloped him. It was just her. Every spectral face from his past loomed dangerously close, each one ready to unveil another secret, another betrayal he'd buried deep within. "Face us, Kyle," they chanted in unison, their voices melding into a haunting chorus of condemnation. Desperation clawed at him. He couldn't let them take him completely. But how could he confront what he had tried so hard to forget? He needed to escape, to fight back. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed against the wall, feeling the weight of his past crash down like an avalanche. But as he did, a sudden realization struck him. Was this darkness an enemy, or a chance to reclaim the narrative? "Stop!" Kyle roared, the sound echoing around him. I will not be defined by your choices or your lies. And just like that, the shadows hesitated, as if they were unsure about his declaration. Their momentum stumbled, weaving in and out, revealing fleeting glimpses of truth amid every lie. But as their form wavered, Kyle felt something even more powerful lurking within the shadows, a message that had yet to be unveiled, a horrifying truth waiting to be uncovered, what lay buried in darkness. What truth could turn his downfall into the weapon he needed? Just then, the ground beneath him trembled, shaking his resolve. The shadows paused, uncertainty rippling through them. It was a moment of hesitation, a chance to turn the tide. With his heart pounding, Kyle prepared to dig deeper into the darkness, determined to unearth whatever lay hidden. But would he find strength or the destructive truth he never wanted to face? The shadows wavered like a mirage, pulsing with uncertainty. Kyle's heart raced, a frenzied rhythm matching the tremors beneath him. With every ounce of courage, he pressed deeper into the blackness that surrounded him. He refused to let fear dictate his actions. The faces in the shadows lingered, their features shifting like clouds in a storm. Each one looked familiar: old classmates, friends, even family. The accusation in their eyes cut through him, piercing into the very fabric of his identity. "Why are you here?" Kyle shouted, desperation lacing his voice. "What do you want from me? You think you can erase us?" One of the figures replied, voice dripping with resentment. It was a voice he had long buried, the voice of his younger brother, Jason. Kyle staggered back, shock flooding through him. "Jason? But you died." The figure took a step forward, his features becoming clearer, revealing years of anger and grief etched into every line. "You shut me out, Kyle. You left me to deal with the fallout. You abandoned me." A pang of guilt struck Kyle like a physical blow. He had distanced himself from everything that hurt, believing it would set him free. Instead, it created a rift deeper than he could have imagined. "I thought what? That you could just forget. That you could live in this perfect world." Jason's voice was raw, the pain palpable. "You think you can pretend that I didn't exist?" As Jason's accusation hung in the air, the shadows coalesced again, swirling into a vortex of memories. Every suppressed regret and sorrow danced in the light, a kaleidoscope of his failures forming a prism of despair. Kyle stumbled forward, hands outstretched. "I want to confront it. I want to face what I did." But as he reached into the darkness, something stronger held him back. It was fear, not just the fear of facing the truth, but the fear of understanding that he had a hand in this chaos. Could he really take the blame for all of it? "You can't escape," Melissa chimed in, her tone sharp. "You're the one who made the choices. You let us go." Suddenly, the air thickened, as if the shadows conspired against him, and Kyle's breath came in ragged gasps. "No. This isn't how it ends." With a fierce determination, Kyle pulled himself upright, pushing back against the ghostly figures. "You don't own me. I won't let you dictate my future." It felt like a tidal wave crashing down, the winds of his resolve tossing him about. The shadows faltered, hesitation flickered across the faces surrounding him. He could almost see the cracks in their ethereal forms, like a glass window about to shatter. "Maybe you can't escape your past," Jason whispered, his voice now softer. "But you can stop it from controlling you." Kyle's heart surged, the truth resonating deep within him. What if this was his chance? His chance to reclaim not just his past but to forge a new path. As if sensing his shift, everything began to swirl dizzyingly around him. "You must choose, Kyle," Melissa said, her face shifting to an unreadable expression. "Confront us or be swallowed whole." The walls of darkness began to close in again, the fear clawing back at him. But beneath it all, a flicker of hope remained, a glimmer of light guiding him to confront the heart of the storm. Before he could second-guess himself, he shouted, "I choose to face the truth. I refuse to run any longer." The cacophony of shadows reacted violently, swirling wildly as if caught in a tempest. For a split second, silence fell thick around him, a moment pregnant with possibility. Then, all at once, the darkness exploded outward, revealing the hidden corner of the room once more, bathed in a harsh, blinding light. As Kyle blinked against the brightness, a new form emerged from the shadows, a figure he hadn't expected, someone he thought he'd never see again. He took a step back, heart pounding, mind racing. "Your journey is just beginning, Kyle," the figure intoned, their voice a mix of warmth and chilling familiarity. Was it another ghost from his past, or a key to everything he had left behind? In that moment, the door behind him creaked, ominously open, revealing a path not yet taken. What lay beyond could change everything. But did he have the strength to walk through it? The blinding light engulfed Kyle as he faced the familiar figure stepping forward from the shadows. "Mom." His voice trembled, filled with disbelief but laced with an odd comfort. She smiled softly, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yes, Kyle. It's time to stop running." Each word felt like a balm, soothing the raw edges of guilt and fear that had haunted him. But her return also dredged up deeper pain, the memories of her passing and the emptiness that followed. "Why now?" he gasped, struggling to reconcile the warmth of her presence with the dread holding him captive. "What do you want me to see?" "It's about understanding your choices, sweetheart," she said gently. "You've been trying so hard to manifest success, but you've lost your way. You've ignored the cost to yourself and everyone around you." In that instant, the swirling shadows around him fell silent, watching, waiting. Kyle felt the knot in his chest tighten further. Every interaction, every betrayal, every choice hung heavy over his head like a storm cloud. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper, choked by emotion. "What if facing the truth tears everything apart?" "Sometimes tearing apart is the only way to rebuild," she replied, her voice steady and unwavering. "You have to be brave enough to confront the pain. You have to own it, to let it go." With that, the room transformed again. The images on the walls shifted, now showing moments from his life, the successes, the parties, the laughter, but also, the betrayals, the shattered bonds, and the moments of unyielding loneliness. A tide of warmth washed over him as he recognized the alternate path, the one filled with empathy, connection, love. It was everything he'd sacrificed in pursuit of the dream he once clung to blindly. "Choose, Kyle," she urged, stepping closer. "Not just for you, but for everyone you've affected." The room pulsed with life, shadows flickering with the heartbeat of his revelations. Had he really ignored the people who truly mattered in his quest for wealth? He thought of Emma, of Sarah, even Jason, displaced by greed, angry for the choices he had made. "Enough!" Kyle shouted, newfound strength pouring into his veins. "I want to be defined by my past mistakes. This is mine to create." A collective gasp echoed through the shadowy figures surrounding him, each face full of surprise and perhaps something else, hope. With every ounce of will, he pulled the past forward, embracing the failures and the triumphs, linking them into his narrative. "What happens next?" Jason's voice shot through, less accusatory now, more like an echo of potential. "I'll face them," Kyle called out to the shadows, absorbed by his determination. "Not as a coward, but as who I truly am. I'll fix what I've broken, and I'll ensure the truth is known." A roar of support erupted from the shadows. The figures began to fade from their ghostly shapes into the vibrant forms of real people, friends, family. They had gathered not just to haunt him but to guide him, to remind him that real wealth lies in relationships, in love, in truth. The room vibrated with energy, fields of furious light sparking from every corner, piercing through the darkness, illuminating Kyle's new path. He reached out, connecting his past to his present while taking a firm step forward. "Thank you," he whispered, turning to all the figures now melding into the light and warmth of hope, gathering strength together. "This is my awakening." Suddenly, the door behind him transformed into a pathway of shimmering lights, a doorway to the possibility of redemption and sincerity, a chance to reconcile with those he hurt. Kyle didn't hesitate, he stepped forward, heart pounding, yet strangely liberated. As he crossed the threshold, an overwhelming surge of anticipation coursed through him, igniting every fiber of his being with clarity. He was ready to share his story, ready to admit to the truth, to embrace growth, and so, he pushed onward. No more shadows, no more fear. Just the radiance of honesty blazing ahead. After all, the real billionaire's secret was never about wealth. It was understanding the value of connection, of vulnerability, of truth. Kyle finally grasped that as he emerged into the light, ready to embrace the real power of a new beginning. If you're feeling what Kyle just discovered and want to join a community that values truth and connection, then this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and ignite your spirit. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us spread this message of redemption together. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear from you. What does the truth mean to you? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us keep the conversation alive.